approaching a tunnel, so let's get some sounds. I have no words to describe it. Okay guys, so I'm incredibly excited for today's video. As you can see behind me, we have the 2019 BMW M2 Competition. The 410 horsepower, 550 Newton meter, absolute monster that's come out of BMW's M division. In today's video, we'll be taking a look around the exterior, the interior. We'll be finding out what it's like to drive and give you guys a great idea of what it's like to drive this BMW M2 on a cold day with cold tyres with 410 horsepower to them rear wheels. But let's get into it. Hey up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So as you just heard from that little bit of an intro there, behind me we have the legendary BMW M2. Now before we get into the nitty gritty of the interior and the exterior, I want to say a massive thank you to Bluebell BMW for allowing me the opportunity to take this out. Of course you guys know that I've got the rear wheel drive GT86, but when you take that power and double it as we have here in the BMW M2, it's a completely different monster to drive. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, this particular car has 410 horsepower with 550 Newton meters of torque going to them back wheels, and the spec on this car is absolutely amazing. It's an M Performance Dream. It's got all of the carbon bits that you can possibly think of. We're going to have a look around it now, so stay tuned and let's get into this video. So this car doesn't really need much of an introduction, but it's a 2019 BMW M2 in Long Beach Blue Metallic. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, the spec on this car is absolutely unreal. So we're going to take a quick bit of a walk around, have a look at the spec that's on it, then we're going to jump into the interior, see what it's like in there, then we're taking it out on these roads outside of here, see what it's like to drive, especially in these wintry conditions with all that power to them rear wheels. As we start to take a walk around this car, then I'm not exactly sure where to start. As I mentioned, the spec level on this car is absolutely insane. We've got the notorious BMW M mirrors, we've got M Performance Editions down by the side skirt there, we've got the 19-inch diamond cut wheels which do so well with the Long Beach Blue Metallic, we've got the M2 badging just on the side there. As we move around the front, I'm just going to open the car so we can see the LED lights. Just look at how aggressive this car looks, especially with them mirrors. Them mirrors just add so much to it. We've got the BMW kidney grills there covered by gloss black surroundings. We've also got little additions to the bottom of the splitter here, which I'll put in a bit more detail in a second. As we take a walk around the back of the car then, just look at how aggressive this looks. We've got the M Performance rear carbon spoiler, we've got the M Performance rear diffuser with the M Performance exhaust as well. As I said earlier, it's an M Performance Dream. So as we're moving on to take a look at the interior, there is one big point that I'd like to speak about, and it's the first thing that you see when you get in, and it's these M Performance seats. So they are very hugging, they are very comfortable and supportive. We've got the red detailing just down the middle there, we've got the M2 badging just on the back, and also the red stitching going along. Now I'm just going to take a seat in here, I'm going to take a look around, then we're going to get it started up and see what it drives like. We're sat inside the BMW M2, and the first thing that you notice is the M2 Competition logo just along the bottom there. We've got the double digital display there, the display centre in the middle which is controlled by the iDrive system just there, but we'll look at that in a second. So I'm just going to bring the car to life, have a look to see what's going on the dashboard. We've got the revs and the M2 logo on the right hand side, we've got the speed and the fuel on the left hand side, and a little information part just down there that tells you bits about your car. As we move over to the central control system, this is where all your media is, your radio, your contacts, your phone, your Bluetooth, all of that good stuff, and all of that's controlled by this little device here, which is the iDrive. Now this is a similar iDrive as to what I've featured in my previous BMW videos, where you can do the handwriting gestures on there as well. Now to move that out of the way, if we have a look at some of the bits on here, we see we've got computer, media, menu, map, navigation, and at the bottom, back and option. Now in the centre console here we've got the digital air conditioning. This is standard on pretty much all of the M Sport models, the 1 Series and the 2 Series, so this in general will not look too much different. Now what will look different is the fact we've got carbon along the centre there, we've got carbon along the side of the handles there, we've got carbon along the middle. There is literally just carbon absolutely everywhere. And let's talk about this steering wheel then. So this is the M Performance steering wheel. You do get this on the M135i, you get it on the M140 and similar models of that kind, but it's very, very thick. It feels very nice in the hand. It's actually got contrasting red and blue stitching on there as well, and it's just a very nice touch. Now the controls in here will be familiar to a lot of you if you have been inside of a BMW. It just feels very nice. And of course the rocker paddles at the back are aluminium, so they feel very, very nice. Let's see if you can just hear the activation there. That is so satisfying. We've had a bit of a look around the interior then, we've had a look around the exterior. Please excuse the mess in here, it's mostly camera gear. I'm going to put this camera outside, we're going to get this car started up, we're going to get revs in normal mode, we're going to get revs in sport mode, we're going to get a couple of drive-bys for you to be able to listen to it, and then we're going to head out there. So we're now on the inside of the BMW M2 Competition, ready to go out to the road. Now we've just listened to the sound of the car, and I think you'll agree with me here, but the pre-GPF cars sound a lot better. Now I've heard it from the outside, it doesn't sound as loud as what I initially thought, and I think there's some trickery going on with the engine sound coming through the speakers. So we're now on the road in the competition, and I've driven this car for a little bit now, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour or something, and it's not failed to amaze me. The sound of the car, the way it pulls, the way it delivers the power, this steering especially is really, really special. Pair that steering feel with the thick ergonomic steering wheel and you have a match made in heaven. We're approaching a tunnel, so let's get some sounds. I have no words to describe it. The amount of power that comes in as soon as the turbo kicks in is ridiculous. The sound is great, especially in a tunnel. It sounds a lot better in a tunnel. But as I was saying, this car is pretty much like Jekyll and Hyde, as you've just found out. I'm on a dual carriageway, it's 50-mile-an-hour zone here. I'm driving along, I'm actually in sport mode, but even then, the suspension is quite soft. It's quite a nice drive. The steering isn't too heavy or it's not too light. It's relatively quiet now, we're in 7th gear, so it's got the 7-speed DCT gearbox. The DCT gearbox in this car is an absolute must. It reduces the 0 to 60 time from 4.4 to 4.2, and it also has that 7th gear, so when you're cruising, it's relatively tame in here. Now if you wanted to change that up, bang it into manual mode, put it into Sport Plus where the diff will allow the car to slide a little bit more, but not too much, and you have an absolute monster on your hands. Now for those of you that have driven M2s or experienced M2s, maybe you've been a passenger in one, you will know exactly what I am talking about. For those of you that haven't experienced it, I do feel really bad for you, but go to a BMW dealership. They're doing 24-hour test drives on these cars, if they have them in stock and available anyway. Go drive one, see what it's like, because you will absolutely love this car. I think historically, whenever you've thought of an M Division car, you've always thought of a big brute, a big heavy car, the M3, the M4, the M5. They're usually quite big and heavy. The M2, some people are surprised at how small this car actually is. The M2 is the smallest M Division car that you can buy, and with that comes agility, the steering feel, and just an all-around throwable car, if that makes sense. Once you get your hands on one of these cars, as soon as you start driving it around and getting to grips with how the car moves and how the car handles, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. The back end may step out a little bit. In the flyby videos you may have seen the back end stepping out just a tiny little bit, but it's very easy to rein it back in. You've got the diff bringing it back in, you've got the car in sport mode that allows a little bit of slip, a little bit of playable slip I would say, and then it'll bring it back in as well, so there's no need to worry in that respect. Only if you turn traction control off should you start worrying about your trousers. When I first realised that I was going to be reviewing this car, I did think that it wouldn't make the best of daily drivers. I thought that the suspension would be too hard, the steering too firm, the power too much, especially the rear wheel drive power, given that it's now damp outside, but I was entirely wrong. This car can be comfortable, it can be smooth, you can drive it normally, it's not too jerky, the 7-speed DCT gearbox is absolutely sublime, and I expect nothing less from BMW's automatic machines. But all it takes is a flick of a switch, like literally, like that, and the car turned into an absolute monster if you want it to be. And I'm going to talk about practicality a little bit, because I don't talk about practicality enough according to some of my subscribers. The boot in this car is actually surprisingly big. It's bigger than the GT86, it's bigger than the normal 1 Series, I would imagine, and I fit all my camera gear in there, and there's enough room for a pram, there's enough room for shopping. It's a type of car you could go shopping on a Sunday, and on the way back go to the Nürburgring and rip the absolute hell out of it. I'm in a bit of a crisis now because I really want this car. Now I know it's going to be very expensive, it's the competition version, it's got a lot of additional spec on it, but as it's quite rightly just been described, I'm like a dog with two d***s, and it's entirely true. And I think when I was coming into this, I thought that the M2 might have been a little bit too overrated, but it's worth all the praise that it's actually got. You know, it's genuinely an amazing car. So we're back at Bluebell BMW in Crewe now, where sadly I have to give the M2 Competition back. Now in terms of my review and my experience of this, it's absolutely amazing. I cannot describe it. If you ever have an opportunity to go and drive one of these cars, please do. If you've got a friend with one of them, get them to take you out, go on their insurance and have a drive of it, because it's a special car to drive. The amount of power you've got is just enough. It's not too much, it's not too little, it's just right. It's like Goldilocks, it's just that right. Other than that, the handling's absolutely sublime. It feels a special place to be. Inside is very BMW-ish. If you've already got a BMW, you'll understand most of what's going on in here. If you don't, it's all very Germanic, you know, it's all very nice sort of materials like leathers and metals and things like that. It's just a very nice place to be. 10 out of 10 for this car, and again BMW, if you want to let me take one out on track, I'll love you forever. But that's it from me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, if you do like the video, please like this video down below, subscribe to the channel, keep up to date with what I'm doing, share it with all of your car friends. Until next time, I'll see you then.